I never thought my life would fall apart in a single moment, but betrayal has a way of ripping everything apart when you least expect it. Just when I was ready to shut the world out, fate brought me someone who needed saving, and in saving her, I might just save myself. Adam Carter was enjoying his morning routine, sipping coffee on his deck as the first light of day painted the sky. The quiet was peaceful until a sudden glint of light caught his attention, like sunlight bouncing off a mirror. That was strange. There shouldn't be anything down near the creek, especially not this early. Frowning, he set his coffee cup down and stretched his 6-foot frame out of the recliner. With a quick whistle, he called for his dog, Duke, a large mixed-breed hound with a shaggy brown and black coat. Duke, who looked far more intimidating than he actually was, bounded ahead excitedly. He didn't know where they were going. To him, it was just another adventure. As Adam followed the familiar dirt path toward the creek, he finally spotted the source of the reflection. A woman was standing by the water with a professional-looking camera mounted on a tripod. The flash he had seen was just the sun catching the camera lens. He studied her for a moment before making his way down the bank toward her. Duke, meanwhile, was busy chasing something in the brush, blissfully unaware of Adam's growing curiosity. "Miss, you realize you're on private property?" Adam called out. She startled so badly that she nearly lost her footing and fell into the creek. Instinctively, Adam stepped forward and caught her before she could go tumbling in. Now that he was closer, he realized she wasn't quite as young as she'd first appeared, though she was still striking. His gaze flickered to a dark bruise on her cheekbone, deep and angry-looking. Someone had hit her. "Art. Good grief, you just about scared me to death," she exclaimed, placing a hand over her chest as she steadied herself. Her breath was still shaky from the near fall. Adam kept his expression neutral. "Like I said, this is private land." She exhaled and gave him a sheepish look. "I know, but the scenery is just breathtaking. The way the sun hits the creek at this hour, it's perfect. I couldn't resist capturing it." He waited, expecting her to say more, and after a pause, she did. "I'm a photographer," she explained. "I specialize in landscapes mostly. I sell prints, but I also do family portraits and weddings. Still, nature photography is my passion." "All right," Adam said, his tone calm but firm, "but that still doesn't answer my question. Did you know you were trespassing?" She hesitated briefly before nodding. "Yeah. I saw the sign when I climbed over the fence." She gestured toward the road. "That's my car up there, the white sedan." Adam glanced in the direction she pointed and sure enough, a white car was parked right at the property's edge. He turned back to her, crossing his arms. "So you saw the no trespassing sign," he said evenly. "Which means you can read." She winced slightly at his tone but nodded. "And what exactly does private property, no trespassing mean to you?" Her expression softened as she let out a sigh. "Look," she said, "I'm really sorry. I know I should have asked for permission first," she admitted, "but I just couldn't pass up the chance to capture that sunrise." Before Adam could respond, Duke came bounding back from his adventure, dripping wet from an apparent dip in the creek. With a dramatic shake, he sent a spray of water in every direction, soaking both Adam and the woman. "Duke? Dang it, how many times do I have to tell you not to do that?" Adam scolded, though his voice carried more amusement than frustration. Duke, unfazed, simply plopped down at Adam's feet with a satisfied grin, as if expecting praise for his efforts. His big, shaggy frame sprawled comfortably, his tail thumping lazily against the ground. He was a loyal companion, protective when he needed to be but mostly a big goofball. And given how relaxed he was around the woman, it was clear he didn't perceive her as a threat. She laughed softly, brushing droplets from her jacket. "Guess he doesn't take orders too well, huh?" "Oh, he listens," Adam said, shaking his head. "He just chooses when to obey." The conversation shifted as she glanced up at the house behind them, taking in its position with admiration. "This view is incredible," she said almost to herself. "And that porch, it's perfect for coffee at sunrise." Adam took a sip from his mug. "That's the idea. It took a while to figure out exactly where I wanted everything, but I knew I wanted to wake up to this every day." She turned to him, a hint of wonder in her voice. "Wait, you built this place yourself?" He nodded. "Yeah, it took a couple of years. Still have a few things I want to finish, but for the most part, it's done." "That's impressive," she admitted. "But how did you even find this spot? You can't see this view from the road." Adam raised an eyebrow. "So you really did wander in blind?" She winced slightly at being caught, but there was no real accusation in his tone. "Well, kind of. I drove around until something caught my eye. When I saw that ridge up there, I just had a feeling the view would be worth it. Adam huffed a quiet laugh. And that was worth hopping a fence? She grinned. Absolutely. Before he could respond, a gust of wind kicked up, sending a cloud of dust billowing from the dirt road leading into town. Adam watched as it settled, his expression hardening slightly. There weren't many things he truly despised in life, but at the top of the list were liars, cheaters, and people who hurt others. Just the thought of this woman being used as someone's punching bag made his stomach tighten. He didn't know her, but something in him wanted to help. And well, it didn't hurt that she was easy on the eyes. She wasn't very tall, maybe 5 feet 3 inches, and couldn't have weighed more than 115 pounds. With that bruise on her cheek, it was hard to fully take in her features, but beneath it she had a natural prettiness. Not the kind that would land her on the cover of a magazine, but the kind that made you look twice. Of course, none of that mattered as much as what she'd been through. Later that afternoon she finally gave in to the nagging ache in her side. She hadn't thought much about it earlier, too distracted by her photos, but now the pain was impossible to ignore. Maybe lugging all that camera equipment down from her car had aggravated whatever injury she had. She considered seeing a doctor but hesitated. The town's only family physician, Dr. Robert Hayes, happened to be an old friend of her husband's. And if word got back to him? No, that wasn't an option. Instead, she opted to push through, running errands in town to distract herself. As she walked past the row of storefronts, a sign in a second-floor window caught her eye. Carter Computer Consulting. Her steps slowed. Something about it made her pause. Maybe today wasn't just about photographs. Maybe it was the beginning of something else. Adam found her email in his contacts but chose not to message her right away. There was no rush, he needed to figure out how he wanted to approach this. Meanwhile, Hannah was tidying up the kitchen after preparing lunch for her husband. As usual, he seemed distant, his mind elsewhere, though she knew better than to ask what was on his mind. Truthfully, she didn't care. She had long accepted that as long as she didn't disrupt his routine, he barely noticed her presence. Returning to her computer, she began sorting through and editing the photos she had taken that morning. She was confident that her husband had no idea she had even left the house, let alone gone out driving along the backroads at sunrise. Then again, he wouldn't have cared either way. Later, the quiet beeping of medical monitors filled the hospital room. Hannah slowly opened her eyes, the dull ache in her ribs making her wince. "You're awake," Adam said gently, sitting beside her bed. His voice was calm but laced with concern. She blinked in confusion before realizing where she was. "What happened?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "You were in an accident," Adam explained. "You were brought here in an ambulance. The nurse said you have severe bruising and a couple of broken ribs." She nodded slightly but said nothing. Instead, her eyes filled with tears, and silent sobs began to shake her fragile frame. "God, he's going to kill me," she murmured, her face crumpling. "He needs his suit for tonight." Adam's jaw tightened. He didn't need to ask who he was. "Well, you're not going anywhere," he said firmly. "But if it helps, I can get it for you. Just tell me where to deliver it." She hesitated before finally whispering an address in the business district. Adam knew the location well but didn't let on. Instead, he nodded and promised to take care of it. Back at the sheriff's office, Adam sat across from his friend Josh, discussing the situation. "She's in bad shape," Adam said, setting down his coffee. "And I think she might need a safe place to stay when she's discharged." Josh exhaled, rubbing a hand over his jaw. "You really think she'd go to a shelter?" Adam shook his head. "No. If she disappears like that, he'll track her down. She needs somewhere safe, but also somewhere unexpected." Josh studied him for a moment before catching on. "You're thinking of letting her stay at your place?" "I am," Adam admitted. "Me, Duke, and a house guest." Josh nodded slowly. "All right. In the meantime, I'll have a couple of my guys keep an eye on her at the hospital. I'll just tell the staff they're there for security reasons." At that moment, Jill, the receptionist, poked her head into the office with a warm smile. "Your guys are on their way," she said. "Thanks, Jill," Josh replied before turning back to Adam. "We'll have them take shifts outside her room." Adam gave a small nod, his mind already racing ahead. Later that evening, as he sat on his porch with a glass of wine, his thoughts drifted back to that morning when he had first met Hannah by the creek. How had she managed to haul all that camera equipment down from the road if she had broken ribs? Another mystery he needed to solve. Adam realized Sheila was still talking, but his mind was elsewhere, caught in the whirlwind of his own thoughts. He had been introduced to Megan through a mutual friend, his buddy's wife, and at first things had seemed promising. She fit in well with the group, had an easygoing nature, and even took to visiting his place a few times. They got along effortlessly, and as time passed, Adam began to see potential in their relationship. Megan had shown that she could be a good homemaker, and for the first time in a long while, Adam started to believe he might have found the right person. About 6 months after they first met, he invited her to move in. At first, everything seemed fine. They settled into a routine, and Megan appeared to enjoy the peace of the rural lifestyle, far from the noise and distractions of town. But eventually things started to shift. Adam couldn't pinpoint the exact moment when he first noticed it, but there were small things, subtle changes in her behavior that didn't sit right. Then one night, everything unraveled. Adam had been out late, but as he pulled into the driveway, something felt off. There was another car parked out front. A car that didn't belong there. His gut clenched. Moving quietly, he stepped inside and made his way toward the bedroom, his pulse steady but his mind racing. He stopped at the doorway, taking in the scene before him. Megan. With another man. In his bed. For a moment, neither of them noticed him. Adam remained still, his expression unreadable. Then, shifting slightly, he raised his phone and took a picture. The click of the camera made Megan whip her head around. She let out a panic scream. The man beside her fumbled, scrambling to get away from the bed, expecting an explosion of rage. But Adam remained calm, too calm. "You have exactly 15 minutes to get your stuff and leave," he said, his voice flat, emotionless. That made the moment even more unnerving. Megan's eyes filled with tears. "Adam, please, it's not what you think." He cut her off. "You're in my bed with another man. I think it's exactly what it looks like." The man, George, hesitated, looking between them as if debating whether to say something. But Adam wasn't interested in a conversation. 15 minutes, he repeated. "Or everything you leave behind is gone." Megan sobbed as she hurriedly grabbed her things. George, still rattled, gathered his clothes in silence. When they stepped outside, Adam followed, closing and locking the door behind them without another word. Megan turned, trying the handle, but it didn't budge. "What now?" George muttered. "We need to get to town," Megan said, exasperated. "It's about 5 miles that way, or 4 if we go up the hill." George cursed under his breath. "Great. And I'm wearing commuter boots. These aren't made for walking." "Do you think he'd change his mind?" she asked. George shot her a look. "You really think he's going to help us now?" With no other choice, they started walking. Meanwhile, across town, Adam sat beside Hannah in the hospital, waiting for the doctor's final assessment. She looked at him with uncertainty. "I don't know what to do. I've got nowhere to go." He didn't hesitate. "Once the doctor clears you, I'll take you back to my place," he said. "My sister is coming down to help for a while, and we'll figure things out from there." Hannah swallowed hard, nodding slowly. "The first step," Adam continued, "is getting you away from him. You'll be safe at my place." "And he won't find me there?" she asked, doubt flickering across her face. Adam's jaw tightened. "No," he said firmly. "He won't." "I can't," Hannah whispered, shaking her head. "Yes, you can," Adam said firmly. "And you will. But for now, your only job is to heal. We'll figure out the rest later." She wanted to argue, but the exhaustion, both physical and emotional, was overwhelming. She swallowed hard and gave a small nod. 3 days later, Adam and Sheila pulled into the hospital parking lot, pulling into the loading area. They had taken Sheila's car, knowing that climbing in and out of Adam's oversized pickup would be nearly impossible for Hannah in her condition. Inside, they found Hannah already dressed and waiting for them. Adam made the introductions between the two women before stepping away to grab a wheelchair from the nurse's station. Before he could return, a nurse took over, carefully wheeling Hannah out to the car while Adam followed closely behind. Once outside, Hannah hesitated, glancing up at them both. "Why are you doing all of this for me?" she asked softly. Adam crouched slightly so their eyes were level. "Because you need help," he said simply. "And no one, deserves to go through what you did. There's no excuse for it. We're here to help you get better, physically and mentally." Sheila nodded, her voice gentle but firm. "I'm a registered psychologist. Right now, I'm on hiatus, so I'm not officially practicing, but Adam and I are going to help you work through this." Hannah's eyes filled with tears. "But you're sacrificing so much, just for me." Sheila shook her head. "We're not sacrificing anything. Adam has the space and I have the time. My husband and kids know why I'm here." "You're not a burden, Hannah." Hannah exhaled shakily, then nodded, allowing them to help her into the car. Later that evening, back at Hannah's home, she and Sheila moved through the house. gathering the things she would need. Adam arrived shortly after and immediately got to work, loading up larger items, computers, essential belongings, anything that mattered. At one point, he glanced up and couldn't help but chuckle as he spotted Hannah and Sheila carefully carrying framed prints from the walls to load into the car. "Can't leave behind the good ones, huh?" he teased lightly. Hannah gave a small smile. "Some things are worth holding on to." Adam nodded, understanding that this was more than just packing. It was reclaiming her life. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Baker was being released from the police station. Adam had parked his truck down the street, watching as Josh, driving an unmarked cruiser, pulled up and let Baker out. Baker's expression was unreadable, his posture stiff as he stepped onto the sidewalk. But Adam knew one thing for certain. This man had no idea what was waiting for him when he got home. When Baker finally returned to the house, he was too wrapped up in his own anger to notice anything immediately. It wasn't until he had stepped fully inside that he froze. The house felt different, lighter. His stomach clenched as his eyes scanned the room. Something was wrong. Panicked, he rushed upstairs to the bedroom, yanking open the closet doors. Empty. Not a single one of Hannah's belongings remained. His breathing grew ragged as he stormed back down to the living room, his mind racing between rage and disbelief. She was gone. And this time she wasn't coming back. Baker stood in the middle of his near-empty home, his fists clenched, his face red with frustration. He wasn't even sure who to be angrier with, Hannah, Adam, or himself. His rage had no clear direction, making it impossible to focus. His secretary, sensing the storm brewing, wasted no time. She snatched up her purse and all but ran out the door, unwilling to be caught in whatever chaos was about to unfold. Meanwhile, Adam was busy setting things in motion. He had opened a new bank account in Hannah's name at a different branch, ensuring that a portion of Baker's stolen funds would be funneled into it. Even just a fraction of what Baker had taken over the years would be a solid start, something Hannah could use to rebuild, no matter what direction she chose for her future. Adam decided to wait until evening before making the first transfers. In the meantime, he set up his computer to monitor Baker's offshore accounts, watching for any activity or login attempts. It wasn't long before the return emails started rolling into Adam's throwaway account. Messages from people demanding to know how he had uncovered Baker's financial dealings. Adam leaned back in his chair, smirking. I wonder how long his so-called friends will stick around when things start to unravel. He had a feeling that once the pressure mounted, those same friends would suddenly stop answering Baker's calls. Oh, to be a fly on the wall, he muttered, chuckling to himself. Later that evening, as the house settled into a comfortable quiet, Adam stretched and stood from his desk. He found Sheila and Hannah in the living room, chatting as Duke lay sprawled between them, his massive head resting on Hannah's lap. Well, ladies, I'm heading out to get some work done, Adam announced. I'll leave Duke to keep an eye on things. He's a big softy, until someone tries to mess with the people he cares about. Hannah ran a hand absently over Duke's thick fur. He's already made it pretty clear that we're part of his pack now. Adam nodded. I won't be far, just out in the shed in the garage. But I am going to set up a few precautions in case we get any unwanted visitors. Sheila raised an eyebrow. Do I even want to ask what that means? Adam just gave her a knowing grin. Probably not. She shook her head with a chuckle. I'll make some fresh coffee. Want some? Sure. I'll be back in a few minutes. The next few days passed in a steady rhythm. Only Adam or Sheila ever left the property for supplies, and they never went out together, just in case. Hannah, despite growing stronger physically, showed no desire to leave the house. It wasn't just about safety, something about the space, the peace of it, made her feel like she could breathe again. Across town, Baker was having a far different experience. He barely slept that night, his mind plagued with restless dreams. In each one, investors loomed over him, their demands echoing in his ears. Where's our money, Baker? You owe us. We'll take what's ours, one way or another. By the time he finally rolled out of bed in the morning, he felt like he hadn't slept at all. Groggy and irritable, he made his way into the office, already dreading whatever mess was waiting for him. And deep down he knew, this was just the beginning. Baker set his phone to pick up calls instead of letting them go straight to voicemail. He had a feeling today wasn't going to be a good day, and unfortunately he was right. Just as he was about to call his bank in the Cayman Islands, his phone rang, the first of many calls that morning. The news was bad. Very bad. The checks he had issued? They had bounced. What the hell? He muttered under his breath, his grip tightening on the receiver. Meanwhile, at the firm, Evan Jones was starting to piece things together. It only dawned on him later that Baker had dodged every pointed question about the auditors. And by the time Jones left the office, Baker had locked himself in again, scrambling to do damage control. He dialed the Cayman Islands bank immediately, demanding to speak with the manager. At first, the man was hesitant to discuss anything, but Baker's persistence wore him down. That's when the real panic set in. The manager informed him that the account had been closed and all funds transferred out. What? Baker barked into the phone. I never authorized that. Where did the money go? The banker wouldn't, or couldn't, answer. Baker slammed the phone down, a cold sweat breaking out on his forehead. This wasn't just a minor setback. This was a disaster. Someone got to my money. And suddenly it didn't matter who or how. The only thing that mattered was getting out. He had always planned for the worst. Thankfully, he had been smart enough to keep an emergency stash of cash at home, along with his passport. He wasn't going to wait around for things to spiral further. He would book a flight out of the country immediately. South America first, then the Caymans. He needed to get there and figure out what had really happened. But as he pulled into his driveway, he was met with another gut-wrenching sight. His Mercedes was being loaded onto a tow truck. Baker's hands clenched into fists. His entire life was slipping out from under him faster than he could react. But the worst was yet to come. At the airport, things went from bad to impossible. As he approached the check-in counter, he handed over his passport, fully expecting a smooth process. Instead, the agent's face twisted into a confused frown. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to wait a moment. Baker's stomach dropped. Within minutes, security arrived, informing him that he was flagged in the system due to suspected ties to an international organization. What? He snapped. I don't even know who they are. That's ridiculous. The officials were firm but apologetic. Unfortunately, Mr. Baker, you won't be flying anywhere tonight. The matter will need to be cleared in Ottawa, and that could take several days. Defeated, Baker had no choice but to arrange for a taxi back to Melville. He sat in the back seat, gripping the armrest so tightly his knuckles turned white. He had lost control. Completely. Meanwhile, across town, Adam, Sheila, and Hannah were completely unaware of Baker's unraveling situation. That is, until Josh arrived at Adam's house, his face solemn as he pulled Hannah aside. After brief introductions, he gently explained why he was there. I don't have much information yet, he admitted. But I wanted to tell you in person. More details will come out in the next few days, but for now, as next of kin, you'll have to decide what to do once the coroner's investigation is complete. Hannah blinked. Investigation. Josh hesitated, then delivered the final blow. It looks like suicide, he said quietly. We'll confirm soon, but that's the early report. I'll call you when everything is official so we can discuss the next steps. During lunch that afternoon, Hannah barely touched her food. She barely spoke. She sat there, staring into the distance, trying to process the weight of it all. Later that evening, as Adam went over the last few transactions, Hannah finally broke the silence. You really did it, she murmured, looking at him with something between disbelief and gratitude. You took his money back. Adam leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. It's sitting in separate accounts now. So, you've already started? Adam gave her a small, knowing smile. In a manner of speaking. For now, I'd prefer this stays between the three of us, Adam said, his tone serious. I've set up 2 accounts, one holding the money Baker stole and the other for something else. My plan is to anonymously notify the administrator, provide them with the details, and explain how to recover the funds. Sheila raised an eyebrow. How much are we talking about? Almost $9 million, Adam replied. The investors will never get everything back, but at least this way Baker won't get away with all of it. Sheila gave him a firm nod. No argument here. Then she turned to Hannah and pulled her into a hug. Take care of my baby brother, she whispered. He really cares about you and I know you care about him. Just, let things happen naturally, okay? Hannah didn't say anything, but the look on her face was enough to convey her emotions. She hugged Sheila back, holding on just a little longer than necessary. Adam walked Sheila out to her car. Is there anything else I can do to help Hannah? He asked. Sheila shook her head. I've done all I can. The rest is up to her. She knows she can call me if she needs anything. All right, Adam said, slipping his hands into his pockets. Before driving off, Sheila smiled knowingly. Take care of each other. Back inside, Adam turned to Hannah. So, how about getting some lunch? Now that you're a free woman? Hannah let out a small laugh. I'd love to, she said, but first, can we go to the bank? I want to open an account in my own name. I don't know if there's anything left in that joint account, but if there is, I want to move it. For the first time in a long while, her voice carried confidence. Adam smiled. Sounds like a plan. It's only a few blocks, let's walk. She nodded and took his arm as they headed down the street toward the bank. Once there, they were able to meet with the branch manager quickly. It's probably best to wait until the dust settles before making any major decisions, the manager advised. I'm fairly certain this is all behind you, but until you have official confirmation, you never know. I suppose you're right, Hannah said, though she didn't sound completely convinced. The truth was she didn't really want to leave Adam's place. She felt safe there. Comfortable. And if she was being honest with herself, she was growing more and more fond of the man who had helped her rebuild her life. That night, Adam sent an email to the administrator using his secure, untraceable account. In it, he provided all the necessary banking details and instructions. His part in Baker's downfall was almost complete. Later that afternoon, Adam tried to book an additional room at the motel where they were staying, wanting to give Hannah her own space. But with a festival in town, everything was fully booked. The only reason I got a room at all is because I'm a long-time customer, Adam muttered as he hung up the phone. When they arrived at the motel, he opened the door to their suite. It was well furnished with a separate bedroom that had a queen-sized bed, a sitting area with a work desk, and all the standard amenities. I hope you don't mind sharing, Adam said, rubbing the back of his neck. There's plenty of space. Hannah just smiled. It's fine, Adam. I trust you. Later that evening, after settling in, Adam handed her a glass of wine. To new beginnings, he said, raising his glass. She clinked hers against his. And to guardian angels. I don't think he'll ever forget you or Sheila, Hannah said softly. Adam didn't respond right away. Instead, he gave her a long, thoughtful look before leaning back into the couch. Hannah curled up beside him, tucking her feet underneath her in that effortless way only women seemed able to do. She rested her head against his shoulder, and for a moment, there was nothing but quiet. A comfortable, unspoken understanding settled between them. After a while, Adam sighed and gently pulled away. I'll just be a couple of minutes, he murmured, stretching as he stood up. Hannah looked up at him with a small smile. I'll be waiting for you in bed, she said playfully. Hurry up. Adam chuckled as he changed into his usual sleepwear, sweats and a t-shirt, before heading into the bedroom. As he walked in, Hannah was already under the covers. She glanced up at him, tilting her head. So, which side of the bed do you prefer? He asked. Left, I guess, she said hesitantly. No one's ever asked me that before. Adam grinned. Good. You get the left. Now scoot over, you're hogging my side. Hannah laughed as she shuffled over, making room for him. As Adam pulled back the covers and climbed into bed, he smirked. I just hope you're not wearing those fuzzy bunny slippers, he teased. Hannah rolled her eyes. You're never gonna let that go, are you? Nope. She swatted at him playfully before settling in, her head resting comfortably against the pillow. The next morning, Adam finalized the last of the financial matters. The administrator had agreed to send Hannah an official letter confirming everything, using Adam's address for security. Later that day, he made a trip to the administrator's office in person. The conversation was more complicated than he had anticipated. They were still trying to account for the $30 million Baker had handled. Some had been returned to investors as dividends, but a substantial portion had been squandered. There was also an account in the Cayman Islands that still needed to be traced. As Adam left the office, his thoughts were heavy. There was still so much to clean up. That evening, as the air cooled and the sky darkened, Adam and Hannah sat outside for a bit. Hannah shivered slightly in the crisp night air, and without thinking, Adam put his arm around her, pulling her close. It felt completely natural and she made no move to pull away. If anything, she leaned in a little more. After a few quiet minutes, they went back inside, where the smell of roasting chicken filled the house. The food will be ready in about 20 minutes, Hannah said, glancing at the oven. Do you want a drink? Maybe a glass of wine before dinner? Wine sounds good, Adam said, stretching. You having some too, or are you still on doctor's orders? She smirked. I think I can handle one glass. A short while later, as they sat on the couch with their wine, Sheila's words echoed in Adam's mind. Hannah has a lot of gratitude for what you've done for her, Sheila had told him. She sees you as her protector, her knight in shining armor. Don't mess this up by overthinking it, just trust your gut. Adam had a tendency to analyze situations too much, to hesitate instead of acting. Sheila had always known that about him. You sure about all this? Adam had asked her. Sheila had given him a knowing look. Listen, little brother, she's probably unsure of herself, and if you want this to go somewhere, you need to make the first move. She's been knocked down for so long, you need to show her that it's safe to stand again. Now, sitting beside Hannah, he realized Sheila had been right. Dinner was ready soon after. Enough of this serious talk, Hannah said, standing up and grabbing his hand. Let's eat. Adam let her lead him into the kitchen, shaking his head with amusement. In the weeks that followed, Hannah never left Adam's home, but she did move into the master bedroom. One afternoon, down by the creek where they had first met, Adam got down on one knee and proposed. And in that very same spot, not long after, they were married.